Welcome back to Too Much Future. This is episode 48. This is the show where we play through the Fallout games and we talk about them. That's like how a wizard might say it. We play through the Fallout games, or maybe how Paul F. Tompkins would say it. The dividing line between those two people, between the imaginary figure of the wizard or the mage and Paul F. Tompkins is, of course, notoriously slim. I am, as always, Cameron.
And I'm Michael, and I grew up in a house with pictures of Paul F. Tompkins all over the walls and statues of Paul F. Tompkins on every available surface.
Some sort of elaborate prank, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Him in his custom suits.
Prank F. Tompkins.
Wow! That's why sometimes it goes by PF. And the P stands for prank. This is the episode, Michael, where we are ending New Vegas. This is not the finale of our season of Too Much Future dedicated to New Vegas. We still have 4 DLCs to talk about, but we are playing the end game of the original stock New Vegas experience. And part of the reason, you might be thinking at home, why? That's how you think, by the way. That's how when I imagine, what do the listeners sound like when they're thinking, you're always thinking like this. Oh, that's almost Wallace Shawn. I'm getting really close.
I was thinking, I was imagining like our reader base is the Green Goblin. It's like, why are you ending now?
No, I was going more toward, I cannot believe that you would be ending. Inconceivable. But no, because part of the reason I think, we couldn't really simulate this due to the way that Fallout 3 worked originally, due to that kind of ending edit that came with the Broken Steel DLC that we talked about previously. But, part of the idea here is to be like, all right, well, without these DLCs, what's the vibe at the end of this game in a broad sense? Mm-hmm. And, so then we can come back in and dive in. I made a save game right before the end game here. I believe you did the same thing. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to talk about the end of the game here. We're going to talk about that slideshow, the delicious slideshow that everyone always loves. If war never changes, etc. And war. No, maybe the way to say it is war. Its unchanging character, etc. and so forth. But, so what did this, I don't even know what the end of the game looks like for you, since you've kind of taken out some factions. In fact, all factions. What does it mean for the game to end for Lucky Nell? Because you have, let me count them on my fingers here, you have killed Monsieur House. Mm-hmm. What was his name, Frank?
Yes, yeah, Frank House.
Okay, you killed Frank.
Yeah.
You killed Kimball, Mr. Pinball himself. Mm-hmm. And you killed Chevy Chase. What's his name? Mm-hmm. Caesar.
No, it's Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase, Frank House, and Pinball. Yeah.
And Pinball. You killed all 3 of them. The most wicked greaser gang, by the way. Pinball, Frank House, Chevy Chase. You killed all of them. So what does it even mean to end the game? Did the game just say good job and like a little, thumbs up appeared on the screen? What does the end game look like?
God, I wish it did that. That would be extremely funny. Like you just took out
it's just like a waving flag and like a little
You killed the leader of every faction. Good job.
Yeah. That would be okay. It just fades to black. Little goofy dorky flag flying around, and you did it. The end.
Yeah. So how this actually works for me? Well, I imagine it in practice probably felt very similar to how your experience went.
Wait. Hold on. Are we talking about practice?
Maybe.
We're here, and we played the game, and you're telling me we're talking about practice?
I'm saying in practice.
Okay.
In actual practice, what it means.
Okay. I got confused. I'm sorry.
Yes. In practice, what it means for me to have done what I have done is that I ran into the final battle at Hoover Dam, which is a battle between 2 factions, Caesar's Legion and the NCR, with both of those factions being hostile to me, the 3rd faction. So that's like the big change, is that you have it's the same kind of mission, the same kind of map. You're just fighting everyone instead of like whatever, instead of if you're allied with NCR and fighting the Legion, or allied with the Legion and fighting NCR, it's NCR and Legion fighting each other, and I'm trying to make my way through them. Why am I making my way through them? Because yes,
Making
man.
your way downtown.
Yeah. Walking fast, faces pass, and I'm homebound.
Mm-hmm.
Yes Man explains to me, we have options, is what he says. He's like, we have options. Isn't this great? We can get to the dam and do one of two things. We can either route all of the power that is being generated by the dam to the fort, to Fortification Hill, which you'll recall has a giant vault of Securitron robots underneath it. And Yes Man explains that if we can channel all of the power there, then basically we release those Securitrons, and then we can call down that army to take the dam and hold it. Because also the Securitrons are fully upgraded, right? They all have rockets and crap. The other thing that I could do, if I wanted to, is just totally overload the dam's generators and destroy them, rendering Hoover Dam useless. So then both sides will stop fighting over it. Yeah.
That's bad for New Vegas.
Yeah, it would. Lucky Nell is like, that would mean the casinos wouldn't run. So pretty quickly, she does not choose to blow up Hoover Dam,
Ringing down the curtain on man and everything.
Yeah. So she heads out with her stalwart companions Boone and Eddie. They head out to the Hoover Dam. They're joined by a single Securitron robot that fights valiantly alongside them. You're on Hoover Dam, like you see it stretched out before you. There's NCR and Legion fighting, just shooting at each other. As I approach, I'm approaching the NCR front line from behind, and as I come up, they like realize I'm behind them, and they all start turning around and shooting at me. I fight through them. I also die a bunch of times. You can just insert that whenever you want, in between any sentences that I say during this episode. And then I died a bunch, because that's what happened here. But I used to, maneuver my way through this crowd. A plane flies overhead. It's the Boomers in their bomber, and they drop fire bombs on Hoover Dam on the distant side of it, and blow up a whole bunch of legionaries. And I just have a whole bunch of fun gunfights here where I'm sort of poking around. Like I go up to one of the sniper towers and try to take out legionaries from there. It's whatever. Then eventually I end up in one of the underground areas, like the inside the dam itself, sort of the tunnels underneath, like the service tunnels. And I'm sneaking around. Well, what I do is I get down there and I die a whole bunch, because there's a whole bunch of really heavily armored NCR troopers, like NCR troopers in power armor down here. They have also flamethrowers and things. So I end up sneaking around until I find the central control room, which I install the override module that Yes Man gave me. And it's just, in this room with it's like a bank of television screens / monitors. And when I boot up the override module, Yes Man's face comes on every single one. And he's like, great. What do you want to do now? Do we want to blow this thing up, or do we want to route power to the fort? And I'm like, route power to the fort, activate those Securitrons, and call them down on the dam immediately. And he's like, that's fantastic. I just need you to go down and flip a switch. So then I have to sneak further down the hallway into the generator room and flip a switch there. What's fun about this is that as I am sneaking, there are monitors set in the hallways, all of these hallways. And as I pass them, they flicker on, and Yes Man's face is on each one. So it's like you're walking down the hallway and Yes Man's face is turning on beside you each time you pass one of these things. I do that, and then I sneak back out. I get up topside. Weirdly enough, my last stealth boy here is still on, so I'm just like sneaking through the remainder of this battle. As soon as I get topside again, I see a vertibird taking off, and it's just dropped all of the Enclave remnants, all of those old Enclave people that I gathered up for Arcade. They're here now, and they're in full uniform, and they're just like laying waste to the legionaries. I sneak off through them. I make to the other side of the dam. There's obviously like a Legion encampment up here, and it is like a bunch of like stairways that I go up, and I'm sneaking past some like Centurions and stuff, and I end up in an area called the Legate's camp, because at the end of this area, I go down through kind of like the little camp, and I go up to kind of like a hill overlooking it, and I meet a guy named Legate Lanius, who is he was like sort of Caesar's, not his second in command, but like in charge of his armies, and he has assumed control of the Legion now that Caesar is dead. And he's a big old dude with a nightmare hell mask and like armor on, and he talks like this. He calls me Woman of the West.
Yeah, he loves to talk about of the West.
Mm-hmm.
I will take the West.
Yeah, so that's where I'll pause to get a sense of how this went for you, because that's after that's the end of the game.
Let's see here. So I got on a little slip of paper. I wrote it all down here. The NCR comes to me. I got to go talk to one of the NCR people. Did not write down their name, and they say, "Hey, the Legion's coming. Here they are. They're coming through some of our turbines." Down in the hootin' and hollering little Jam City down there. I don't know what it's called. The place. The tubes.
Mm-hmm.
And the water tubes. And you got to go down there, and you got to basically, you got to go down into it, and into the dam, and you have this option to like do some computer hackery or something, and turn it on and just chop them all up. And I didn't know how to do that. And so I just went in there and I fought them all. Everyone has a really good gun or a super sledge. So this is like pretty lethal, and I gotta like swing my own weapons around. By the way, I accidentally purchased a Nuka-Cola sign that electrifies people when I hit them with it.
Where did you get that?
Mick and Ralph.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they just had that. So I bought a katana. I bought this Nuka-Cola sign. I bought a couple things on accident, clicking around, hitting too many buttons. But I'm not mad I did it, because it's quite good. It's like a big sledgehammer, but it says Nuka-Cola, and you hit people, and electricity goes everywhere, and that's pretty neat. I haven't had an opportunity to use the katana yet, because it is objectively worse than the sign. So, I've made some choices, but I'll have some opportunities, I think, later on in the DLC to use those items. But so I just hack my way through it, as one does. I fight my way in. I got lost, and they keep spawning. I got confused because I'm down in the bowels of the thing, and of the dam, and they keep spawning Legion troops for me to fight. And for a little while, I was thinking, the reason that they're spawning more troops is because I'm on the right path, and it's spawning more enemies in. I don't think that was the case. I think it was just, kind of Monster Closet style spawning enemies, which was unfortunate. So I eventually figured that out, killed a bunch of them, went up to the top of the dam. You got to fight your way all the way across the dam. It's not particularly interesting. They are pretty lethal at a distance. And I didn't realize for a very long time that my armor was just completely broken. And so I was dying really quickly. I took the perk somewhere here when I was leveling up to increase my explosions by 25%. So I was able to like throw a lot of grenades and whatnot, using my grenade launcher that I bought, things like that. And just kind of made my way there, got to this camp, and similar kind of deal. Something maybe a little bit different from what you're experiencing is that 80% of the enemies after I got to that camp were melee enemies. Did you have that experience?
No. So I pop out. The other thing that I forgot to mention is that the Securitron army has been awakened. So Securitrons are here now, also fighting the Legion, also fighting the NCR. But as I go through this whole, the reason I mentioned is because there's a nice little set piece here where you, after you've activated the Securitron Vault, you can look over at Fortification Hill and it is on fire. Like the whole thing is burning. Like you have just like blown Caesar's encampment from the bottom up, which is, it's nice. It's nice to know that I did that. But literally I'm not seeing anyone because I'm still stealthed. Like my stealth boy is still working. So I'm not really fighting anyone. I'm just like walking past all these centurions and I have no idea what they're doing. I will say a lot of them, even in my game, a lot of the ones that I killed and picked up, like I looted their corpses, they were carrying power fists or whatever.
Yes, so that's what I experienced. They're all having like the ballistic power fist, which like when you punch, it makes a like gunshot kind of. It's pretty cool. I think it's like a cool weapon. But anyway, so I'm experiencing that, and occasionally it'll be just a guy with an assault rifle just wrecking my shit from very far away. And the sound effects are really weird. They're not quite mixed correctly, maybe in this area in particular. So the assault rifle is extremely loud, no matter where you are. So it was pretty weird, but
I started getting weird glitches here too, where, and this has been happening for a while now, VATS is starting to hang for me, and I don't know if that's because I've been taking like lots of VATS perks. Like if I go into VATS, if I have the right gun, I can shoot like 12 times before I'm out of AP, but I'm having this sort of recurring thing where I kill an enemy and the battle ends, but the camera doesn't go out of VATS and it just sort of hangs there for a while. And I get to, I don't know, look at everything from VATS perspective, which in a couple of points has actually killed me because this means the enemies behind me keep shooting me. And and then the second I come out of VATS, it's like, oops, you lost all your HP somehow. Bye.
Yeah, the ability for enemies to just keep knocking the shit out of you while you're in VATS is particularly bad for a melee player, by the way. But, VATS is used very tactically for me because of that, because these guys can like just stand around and punch me. But me and my dog run in here, and we're fighting all these guys. The other thing I want to say is I also have been getting some visual glitches in particular. I'm sure somewhere in the footage for the last couple episodes I will have included some of this, but like I had one place where there was an overpass in front of me that just glitched out of existence and then was fully gone, like never came back, disappeared. And when I blew up the Brotherhood of Steel, there were like all these weird like glitched rocks everywhere for some reason. So I don't know. So Fallout New Vegas is notoriously kind of buggy and has issues, and I will say that I've had maybe 5 crashes, something like that, since I've started playing this game, in the 20, 30 hours that we've played. I think it has a reputation for being buggy. I'm not saying that's not an unearned reputation, but I'm saying that I've been delightfully surprised that I have not had to deal with that very much.
I had at least 4 crashes in this last chunk that we played through.
So it's really getting you.
Yeah, I mean, I had it pretty stable for a while. I had maybe 2 or 3 throughout everything up until about this point. And then it just started crashing like pretty regularly, like every half hour, 45 minutes or so, something like that.
Well, anyway, so I go up here and I fight this dude, Legate Lanius, as you were talking about, and he's up there and he's like, I'm bad. I'm real bad. And you can talk to him a couple different ways. Did you? I'll tell you where I got, and you can tell me where you got. So you get a couple options. You can try to speech check your way out of it. And you can barter your way out of it. Bartering is really funny, because my barter is at like 60 at this point, and so I couldn't complete it this way. But bartering is extremely funny because you can be like, it's going to be hard to get supply lines going in the West. That's going to be hard. What are you going to do? How are you going to get all your supplies out there? And that's like, what are you talking about? Like from a broad perspective, this is a slave empire. If there's any social form that will be able to figure out the logistics of supply lines for reasonably 50,000 people, 25,000 people, it's not a huge number. It's gonna be the slave empire. Like, they can autocratically make that happen. And they recruit via slavery. So the more that they win, the more that they bolster their ranks of laborers. I'm not a historian. Maybe that seems way off to me, but it just seems like the Legion is the perfect invasionary form. In fact, the problem, in my mind, is not how do you conquer the West as the Legion. It's how do you maintain a society that is not based on conquering.
Right.
That seems to be the much harder one for me. And so you could get a couple in, and I could be like, you can't take the West, and then you can't hold the West because your supply lines will be bad. And that's where I kind of bottomed out because my barter wasn't high enough, and so I ended up having to fight him. But I imagine maybe you had a different tack here.
Yeah. So I didn't go with the barter route. I just went I went for just the speech options off the top, but I also had some other conversations with Lanius. He specifically talking about how the Emeritas aren't going to help you, because somehow I figured out that the Emeritas were working with the Legion. I think that was sort of a background detail in the Emeritas quest, but it was never something that became explicit to me, and it was never something that a character said to me. So it's very funny that shows up in dialogue, that Lucky Nell has put that together in her head. But he doesn't really care about that. He thinks it's just, subterfuge. But the tactic that you can take with the speech options is, well, he says, we're going to, move forward, and we're going to take the West. And I can say, like, well, what of the East? And he's like, you talk in circles. What of the East? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, listen, really. If you need to marshal an army of this size in the East in order to take the West, and it has taken you like moving your entire army to the West in order to take over the West, then who is going to be holding the East while you're down here trying to, keep things straight on the West? This is something that sort of gets to him, but he's also like, well, it doesn't really matter, right? He says, like, once we have Hoover Dam, like, there's nothing beyond Hoover Dam to really stand in our way. Like, once we have the dam, we can just hold the East and we'll just march westward. And then I'm like, well, New Vegas is between here and the rest of the West. And he's like, well, whatever. That doesn't matter. We will take we're going to take Vegas, and then we're going to walk on the bodies of the NCR to the coast. And then I tell him that because he also talks, because this is the way that the Legion talks about the NCR, about anyone who isn't the Legion, that the people of the West are like weak. And I say something to the effect of, right, the West is weak, and its weakness is its size. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, the NCR's problem is that they have so much territory that they can't really accurately control it or map it or anything. Like, that is the problem that they're having. How can you expect to take over all of this territory as well, and not just have, a total collapse of your own empire, right? To take the West means to lose the East. And then he says something about, like, there is wisdom in your words, woman of the West. And I'm like, yeah, sure. There sure is wisdom. And he says, it's really sad, quote, my coming could have saved you and your people in ways, and the quote trails off to paraphrase here, in like ways you can't understand now, right? Violence would have destroyed the weak, but then allowed the strong to, move to the top or whatever, all this boring crap. Nothing about gambling, nothing about luck, pure force, pure violence, whatever. And he says, violence gave you strength. It awakened you, and I can see it in the scar of 2 bullets on your head. And my thought, and I can't say this, but my thought is like, it was what Benny said at the beginning. It was bad luck. There was no strength in that, no violence. It was just a thing that happened. And now here I am with my robot army. This is one thing that New Vegas offers in the face of Fallout 3. Instead of one really big robot, what if I had a whole bunch of little robots?
Swarm logics.
Yeah. But anyway, this manages to talk Lanius down. He's like, well, I guess, I can't take the West. I'm going to go back into the East and regroup, essentially. But then he adds, I'm not going to be there forever. One day we will come forth again and we will meet the bear in battle, and perhaps you will be there too, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. And then I forced him into retreat. He runs away up the little hill that we're standing on, and something about this specific NPC is that he has a customized movement speed. He moves at, I think, 80%. He's like 80% faster than a normal NPC, so he scurries like a little bug. And I just watch him scurry up this hill and run off. And this is where this is very rarely is this my orientation toward games and how I feel about games. This is just a dirty little trick. He runs off and he despawns. He disappears from the game. I think I should be able to force him into a retreat and then kill him anyway. But no, he runs off screen and then disappears. And there's no way to stop him and get rid of him, which I just, I wanted to destroy him anyway, even after I made him retreat. That's just what I wanted out of this game, and it's not what the game gave me.
Well, I just had to fight him.
Yeah. How was that?
It's hard. He's a melee guy. He's strong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a melee guy, and I'm not strong. Not as strong. I'm as strong as the game will let me be.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not as strong as this guy who's got arbitrarily beefed up. And he also spawns a bunch of additional guys.
Mm-hmm. And if I had chosen to fight him, I could have talked him into not spawning in those guys.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway. So he's swinging around and doing stuff. I had to try this 5-6 times probably. And I ended up doing it by sending because some NCR guys, NCR assassins also spawned.
Huh.
And so they're like, hoo, like they got little knives or something. They're stabbing at him. And while they were busy, because I think what's supposed to happen is they spawn on your approach, and you get to see that you should get there right in time to see him just cleaving them in twain.
Oh, yeah.
And so, anyway, so what I ended up doing was sending. Oh no, I'm sorry. That is happening. After at some point here, I don't really know when this happens. A little bit earlier, when you're fighting your way across the dam, you have a bunch of NCR Rangers who are with you. None of them made it across with me. Period. But if I waited long enough before I went and attacked this dude, this Legion guy, one of them would come through the door. And so I could go back and get him, and then I brought him forward with me. And he ran up and fought this guy, and while they were fighting together, I just threw a bunch of plasma grenades at their feet and blew them both up.
The Ranger made the noble sacrifice.
Well, welcome to the NCR, buddy.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. But then that was it. I left. Weirdly enough, there was still a bunch of guys shooting me, and I was like, I'm out of here. The Legion's donezo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out of here. So I ran to the front of this camp, right? And it's a camp. It's like, a mobile camp in some ways. It looks like it's been put up pretty quickly. There's tents and things like that. But there is a physical gate, and as I got close to the gate, it exploded. Mm-hmm. It blew up. And the NCR came through. And basically they were like, thanks so much for helping us out with this. We really appreciate it. You're very cool. You deserve some rest. And my dialogue option was like, I guess I'll rest now. And then slideshow.
Tonk turns to look into the camera like a single tear in his eye.
Yeah. 100. It's like, Arcade went to prison. Rex died in Vietnam. It's like that level of it's time for you to get well-deserved rest.
Veronica
courier.
became a CPA.
Yeah. And here I am, the courier. living in the NCR, and sometimes I think back to those days. Yeah, I just wonder, is there any kill as good as the one where you kill the leader of the Legion? I guess we'll never know. Dad, come out and take us swimming. Whatever happens at the end of that movie. I haven't rewatched this film yet.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that's the end of that movie.
It is.
Okay.
It is. I don't think they go swimming. I think they play baseball or something. But yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just King Things. Check it out.
Yep. Check out Just King Things. rangetouch.com/justkingthings.
So I had a very similar experience here up until a point. So I'm trying to leave this little camp, and I get to that gate, and it blows open, and the guy who comes in is General Lee Oliver of the NCR. I don't know if I was getting maybe different lines than you, because obviously I was in a very different position. But he comes in and he's just like, wow, that was really effing great. And he's actually saying the F word there. I'm just giving Cameron some leeway here against YouTube's censoring algorithm or whatever. He's like,
well, so I've learned recently, and Mega 64 have really been at the forefront of this, that as long as you don't say the F-bomb in the first 30 seconds, you're okay. So,
well, so
feel it out.
Oliver is just like cursing up a storm. He's like, that was beautiful. Just fucking beautiful. I love it. You did that so well. Did he also respond in this way for you?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. It's a very weird performance because the lines are written with a character that the voice performance doesn't have. The voice actor seems a little bored. So imagine, like, you're the general of this army. You've just defeated your main rival army that you've been in like a weird stalemate Cold War thing with for like, I don't know what, 5 years or something. And you just like walk into the enemy camp and he's just like, wow, that's great. Just great. Huh. I'm so glad you did that. So anyway, he talks about, how I did such an awesome job. And then I'm like, yeah, I did do something really cool, but I had quite a bit of help from my allies. And then behind him, the dust from the explosion that they used to knock in the door, that dust clears, and there's an entire army of Securitrons with Yes Man at the front. And they come like pouring in around us, and immediately Oliver is like, hey, I was just coming over to hand you a victory cigar. No worries. So the Securitrons have surrounded this entire like force, and he basically, Oliver is arguing with me, trying to get me to call back the Securitrons and to cede the dam to the NCR. And I have various ways of not doing this. And it, can kind of go back and forth. I could also, like, one of my first options is to just tell the Securitrons to kill everyone, which I don't do. I try to have a little conversation here. I say that, I don't want any more violence, but, if you keep pressing me on this, something's going to happen. And he says, oh, yeah? Well, I came for a fight. And then I have a speech option that's a bluff. That's like, or rather, it says it's a bluff, but I'm not bluffing. What I'm doing is calling his bluff, where I'm saying like, oh, you came for a fight? Is that why you're fighting me right now? And he's like, you don't understand, right? He says, and this is a quote, making a nation making a nation ain't like chowing down on a pile of fancy lads snack cakes, like you seem to think it is. And he talks about how there's actually going to be a lot of work that you're going to have to put in to for all of this to really go through, and blah 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 blah. And then at a certain point, I can just tell Yes Man to throw him off the Hoover Dam and kill him. Now, I do not do this because I allowed the Legion to keep their big, stupid general. So I'm going to let the NCR keep their big, stupid general too. That is the way of Nell. But I just want you to know that I had that opportunity and I did not take it. And then I say, I want NCR off the dam. Like, this is our territory. Leave. And he says, well, I can't believe we were suckered by some road jockey. And he says, just Lord. So you know, what was that?
I said, Lord.
Yeah. And he says, just so you know, if our situations were reversed, I would see you hang. And then I say, well, NCR's word isn't worth much in these parts. And so then he and his buddies start moving out, and Yes Man comes up to me, and he says, wow, didn't we have a lot of fun? Something along those lines. He says, I just wanted to let you know that I found some code snippets in Mr. House's old files that will let me reprogram my personality to help me be more assertive. So I'm going to do that now.
No.
If it seems like I'm offline, that's just because I'm doing all that reprogramming. So but don't worry, like I've set all of the Securitron protocols, like their targeting parameters to target Legion and NCR soldiers. Vegas is safe. Catch you around. Bye. And then I go into the slideshow.
I don't want Yes Man to be more assertive. That seems bad.
Yeah, it's like, there's something that might be ominous there. Although, if you look around, try to figure out what this means, and I don't think, obviously, it's not in the game, so you don't have to truck with it anyway. Someone asked Joshua Sawyer on Formspring what the hell this meant, because I think most people take it as like, oh, Yes Man's like got his own game that he's playing in the background. And Sawyer says on Formspring, Yes Man is, when he says he's making himself more assertive, what he means is that he will not just take orders from anyone who talks to him from this point forward, but only orders from the courier. Which I feel like if that's what he was going to do, he could have said that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sawyer is a huge, what do you call it?
I don't
voice. A voice. I was trying to I was trying to say the word perspective. I couldn't get there. But is the most outspoken of the developers of New Vegas about giving us all this information. But Joshua Sawyer also not the lead writer for the game.
That's true. Yeah, was the lead writer Gonzalez?
Yeah, I think so. Sawyer was the game director, I believe.
Yes, that's true. So.
Yeah. So, sometimes you got a big idea, you're at the top of the food chain there. Someone else might have some different plans. It's almost like the Mr. House Yes Man relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Well, okay. Well, what'd you get in the slideshow? You want to go kind of region by region?
Yeah.
And so we'll start with I think the big one is like the faction you aligned yourself with. That's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote mine down in order. Did you write yours down? By any chance?
I did.
Okay. All right. So I'll just give you mine in order, and then you can tell me what the differences is. So here's slideshow for me. Number one, NCR. NCR gets the Mojave, and they annex the Strip and most of the surrounding areas. And they also give the courier the Golden Branch or something. They give him a big award. It's the end of Star Wars: A New Hope. It's that.
Come back Chewbacca to the NCR. There. We're having Star Wars.
Basically. And so it's nothing shocking there, I don't think.
Yeah, for me, I drove the Legion and NCR out of the Mojave, and then when sort of it became clear what was happening on the Strip, there was a moment where there could have been brief anarchy, but because all of my Securitrons were fully upgraded, it didn't happen. They kept the peace. And after a while, people realized, oh, so this is how the Strip is being run now. And
new boss, same as the old boss.
Yep.
Got it. Let's see here. The boomers are friendly to the NCR and eventually start moving out of that area to be part of the wasteland community, but they still don't let anyone into their house.
The boomers made such a great display of their own prowess at the Battle of the Hoover Dam that they kept out any fortune seekers from that time forward. They protected Nellis. No one came in. The boomers kind of settled more fully into not necessarily being fully isolationist, removed, but they're keeping people out still.
Mm-hmm. The Brotherhood of Steel are dead. They lie beneath tons of I don't remember the exact phrase, but something like they are beneath tons of steel and scrap. And the people who were not killed have either given up the Brotherhood of Steel life and they're just kind of like, finding home somewhere or, kind of integrating into society, or they're heading west to join other chapters.
Nothing for the Brotherhood of Steel for me. They weren't mentioned at all. Didn't come up.
Okay. The Fiends were never attacked by me or harmed in any way, and so while the Hoover Dam was being attacked and the NCR were focusing on that, the Fiends attacked the NCR, and there were heavy losses because of that.
On both sides, or?
Nope, just on the NCR side, it seems.
Okay.
They didn't win. I guess they were repelled. It's kind of an open question there, but presumably they were able to take care of it.
All right. Nothing about the Fiends in my slideshow.
The followers were pushed out by the NCR. They were not only pushed out of the old Mormon fort, but they were eventually pushed out of NCR territory entirely.
The followers stayed in Freeside, but were not prepared for what the reality of an independent New Vegas was. It turned out that in kind of a Freeside situation, that was a lot more unstable. They had a lot more people with wounds, injuries, and Kim issues than they had really planned for. And even though this is, I should say, back when I was talking with Arcade, he sort of mentions like this, the ideal for the followers would be for NCR, or for New Vegas to be independent. And so they got what they wanted, and it turned out to not be that great for them. And then following along with this, Arcade himself continued to work out of the old Mormon fort with the followers, and although an independent New Vegas was not all that he had hoped, he continued to provide his medical services.
Interesting. Good Springs had a hard time being integrated into the NCR, and some people thought that the taxation was too burdensome, and so they had to leave.
Good Springs flourished under an independent Vegas. All of the tourists who were still coming in from NCR, see, I was correct. I made the correct wager. All of the tourists who were coming through on their way to the Strip really pumped up the local Good Springs economy.
Because they got to go through there.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I thought this, taxation is bad vibe here was very weird. There is this, I don't know. We've talked about it with Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, but there's somewhere in the Obsidian DNA, there's a libertarianism that seems inextractable at some level from the way that they imagine some of the political stuff going on in the world. Where else in this game has taxation showed up as an important political force? I'm sure it's somewhere, but it seems like a weird thing to kind of come out of nowhere. So the old timers had to leave, basically, is what they say. Great Khans, while all the shenanigans are going on at the end of the game, Great Khans leave the Mojave Wasteland, and they go north to Wyoming, where they meet up with the followers of the Apocalypse and create an empire that dominates the Northwest of the United States. Because they have this kind of combo of I don't really know what the cons are bringing to it, right? I guess they're have force and power and social organization, but then they are just willing to take all of the kind of empirical information that the followers have and then really act on it. So they're making it happen.
So the NCR all of their trade lines into the Mojave were destabilized by the collapse of the Crimson Caravan after the leader was taken out by yours truly. And that was a huge problem. That set back the NCR quite a bit. But Cass, who was kind of the person who got me onto the path of destabilizing the NCR's trade routes, she was fine with that, and she was very surprised to see me turn the tide of the war, against 3 armies at the Battle of the Hoover Dam, which are, I think, as the narration puts it, 3 more than she would have expected. And then for the cons, I had the exact same thing as you.
The Kings become like a public service organization, and they keep Freeside independent of the NCR somehow.
Okay. So the Kings don't show up for me until later.
Oh, interesting.
I had Jacobstown next. Do you have Jacobstown at all?
No, I got a couple other things in between here in Jacobstown.
Okay, well, we'll do those.
No. I'm sorry. I just have it written out of order. Yeah, I do have Jacobstown next. It becomes a haven for mutants. They come from all over. And eventually they figure out the Nightkin, I think.
Yeah, that was the same for me. They cured the Nightkin schizophrenia, and becomes like a trade hub. And then also Lily, who joined up with me. I did her quest kind of off screen. She was having problems with her medication doses, and so I told her to take them at half doses to help her remember some things while still treating her schizophrenia. That allowed her to function, but it still made her muddled and confused. And then eventually she went off west in search of clues about her past life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got the same thing for her.
Oh, okay. And then the Kings ruled Freeside as kind of their own thing, and they tolerated the remaining NCR people who were there. They were not cruel to the NCR, even though the NCR had not been very nice to the Kings.
I don't think I got anything about their relationship with the NCR, which makes it even weirder. Let's see here. Rex got his brain replaced, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still got scrap dog memories in his brain, and he's having a hard time with that.
I also helped Rex. Same stuff. I think he had a slightly better time. Like, he had his scrapyard dog memories, and it's like eventually like they like his two sets of memories like conjoined or something.
Yeah, I didn't write down the end of it, but it was more ambivalent in my reading. Maybe we had the same text.
Maybe.
But yeah, so scrap dog memories. I wonder what happens there if you've got I'm going to look it up. What is it called? Fallout New Vegas endings.
Sure.
I want to see what it looks like. The reason I'm looking that up is I want to know what happens if you get a Legion dog in there. Let's see here. Let me read some things here. So, if you don't do anything, if you don't, if Rex dies in the game, then you get. He had survived police service in Colorado, the Great War, combat duty with the Legion, and being the companion of the king. But in the end, Rex finally succumbed to the horrors of the wasteland.
Aww.
That's if he just dies. If you don't give him a brain, he succumbs to old age, abruptly shutting down forever one quiet morning. After 2 centuries of life and decades of service to humanity, Rex collapses and dies. That's if you don't do his quest to fix his brain. If you get the Fiend dog, he has a hard time stapling the two things together. The Legion dog, they call it a donor brain. The donor's experiences. They melded well with his own memories of the Legion, and his new mind quickly adjusted to the myriad memories. So that's the easiest one for him.
Weird.
Being a Legion dog. That's interesting. And then we got the one that we have. Yeah. Rex's mind settled, peacefully melding his own memories with that of the long travels with old Lady Gibson. So yeah, I guess you're right. It's a positive ending there. Next one I got is Novak. Did you get Novak next?
Yep.
Okay. Got Novak. They took apparently huge losses from the Legion. I guess the Legion attacked them at the same time? Question mark. And they stayed independent somehow. And the Bright followers came to help them do that.
Same. Exact same.
Okay. The NCR killed all the powder gangers.
Boone remained in New Vegas working as like a scout and a guard for hire. He could have gone back with his old unit and left, gone back to the NCR because that's where he's originally from. But he could not bear to leave the region and the city where he met his wife. And so he stayed in the Mojave. The Powder Gangers, for me, met up with the Khans and fled and, went off and had adventures with them, except for the few who didn't make it, who I am informed just died. like it's a very interesting sort of ending narration to be like, yeah, and the powder gangers, like most of them met up with the cons just like you brokered in the game, and they made it off, but there were a few who stayed back, and those guys died.
Well, there were apparently brutal executions as well, since they all escaped from prison, if you remember. And then we got a second, the Vault 19 powder gangers, who were unrelated, which that's the one I think you're referring to, the one that you went and brokered. Those, for me, they became a roving gang and were a thorn in the NCR's side, just murdered people for years. Yeah, pretty wild. And then Prim is just a frontier justice town now. That sheriff is just, he's doing good work most of the time, but sometimes people just end up dead, and we don't know why. and we can't ask, because legally we can't.
Prim Slim remains the sheriff of Prim, and people love him.
I forgot.
He is beloved.
I forgot that he's the sheriff.
Yeah, he's beloved, and he's usually pretty good, although he's not very fast. So sometimes people get away because they can walk faster than this Protectron robot, but people really like Prim Slim nonetheless.
Me too. I would live there. I bet there's no frontier justice. But that's all I had. Do you have any more?
Yeah, I have a couple more. So Eddie, my little iBot friend, remained, like, having had its, memory wiped and its systems upgraded and all that, remained a constant and faithful companion to the courier through the rest of its days. Whatever that means. And then the followers of the apocalypse used the data that I handed over from the iBot to refine their ability to, generate solar power in some way. Then Chief Hanlon from Camp Golf, his death broke the Rangers as an institution, as an organization. Like, all faith was lost in the NCR Rangers, and today it is but a shadow of what it once was. And then the remnants, the Enclave remnants, just as quickly as they appeared, disappeared. And they provided a reminder to everyone of why, people once feared to see vertibirds in the skies, which I guess is true, strictly speaking, but the NCR also has vertibirds now, so I think it's still kind of scary to see vertibirds flying around. I don't think we needed the Enclave remnants to come back to let us know that was maybe not a great thing. But anyway.
Yeah, and again, the reason they were afraid of the Enclave was not that they were powerful warriors, I guess that was a part of it. It's because they were flying murder Nazis.
Yeah.
like they would show up and just straight up murk everyone around because they believed they were all unclean. They were doing genocide on people.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to be necessarily... It seems to me that perhaps the development team of New Vegas has a slightly different read on what was going on with the Enclave from the end of that game.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because there is shared DNA as far as developers, right? Avalon is a part of the development team. The writing team here, and we read the Fallout Bible, where a lot of that is laid out just as clearly or more clearly as it was in the actual game. So, like, there's an unbroken line of people who are thinking about this, and it's interesting that in the intervening 10 years that I guess that feeling softened on the Enclave, I guess. I don't really know.
Yeah, it's I mean, like I said, it's kind of some weird feelings. So there's a lot of like, oh, they were just kind of like following their orders, but they didn't have their heart in the ideology. There's just a lot of that around them.
Yeah. It's interesting that I didn't get the NCR Rangers one because it looks like the conditions on this website are just... Yeah. Hanlon dies, and then you complete Eureka for the NCR, and I did that. So that's interesting. That didn't trigger for whatever reason. Anything else after that?
There's just, the one final slide showing not even my character. They couldn't even update the haircut. It was just a, female player character model with some different haircut, and talking about how then the courier, wandered off and did more, and war never changes.
In the new world of the Mojave wasteland, fighting continued, blood was spilled, and many lived and died, just as they had in the old world. Because war never changes. What a cop out. What a cop out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just if you want to say it this way, what they're getting at is history keeps happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, much like falling downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps happening, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that, but I just don't care for it. I don't care for the messaging here. Just, you know, say, look, war changed, buddy.
If that's the like Ron Perlman voice, like, war changed, buddy.
Well, the narrator changes at some point.
Yeah.
You know, so they can't even say it anymore legally. Only Ron Perlman can say that. Well, that's the end of the game. Do you think, I mean, we can kind of reserve big thoughts for kind of a wrap-up episode, which I'm sure that we will do after we do the DLC, but I think that it feels appropriate. It ends right. I didn't feel like there were any big loose ends here. It seems like you got like a really compelling and good ending for, you know, to kind of reward the work you did to kind of work outside of the system. I feel like I got the NCR ending, which is like, here's a system of immense violence and strife and extraction that seems marginally, or it's actually significantly better than the Legion, but probably is not better than just what people were doing by themselves. Mm-hmm. Again, I think we can feel kind of the ideology of the Obsidian product here, right? Like, I don't know, is having a state that looks out for people, is that better?
Yeah.
Than just a bunch of freewheeling people who are getting attacked by rad scorpions all the time? You be the judge. You know?
Well, I mean, obviously the solution, as my ending suggests, is to have a decentralized network of police state robots, so...
Or to have just wandering... You got to have a good guy with a sign, you know, going around and hitting people with it. Mm-hmm. That's the important part. That's like, that's how good society works. You know, you got a guy with a guitar and a katana running around, slicing dudes up in the Vegas wasteland. That's how you improve society. You know, rationed water, agricultural planning. No way, Buster. Bad idea.
One thing that I want to talk about is Legate Lanius, who is just a guy that comes out of nowhere and goes into nowhere. Like, I think that this character has, you know, in sort of Fallout New Vegas fandom, where there's, you know, comics and things that you can look into, sort of lore that fleshes him out. You know, there's definitely interesting stuff about this character and how he comes to be and who he is. But if you are, I remember my first time playing this game, like way back in 2009, 2010, whatever. I remember playing through this game the first time, and I was doing NCR, and I got to the fight with Lanius, and I was like, who the hell is this? Because it's not at all clear. And this time I was sort of keeping an eye out. I was like, okay, where does this get set up? Like, how do I figure out? Because I think a big problem I had with my first playthrough of New Vegas was that I just did not really know what to expect. And so I didn't notice when certain things were getting set up. This time I was paying very close attention. And I heard nothing about this guy. Not really. Like, I think at one point, Mr. House made some offhand comment about the monster of the East, and that was kind of it. So I was looking on the wiki, trying to figure out, like, in this game, if you are going to find out who this guy is and what his deal is and what he's up to, how do you do that? It turns out the answer is be a part of the Legion. Because all of the background on who he is, like all of that stuff, you get that from Legion characters that you can interact with if you're doing Legion quest lines.
Mm-hmm. I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
You know, there is kind of an iron curtain in some ways of information about the Legion on purpose. Mm-hmm. And so you might not know about their secret, you know, dude, their secret, very strong guy. It's like, you know, you don't know Stone Cold Steve Austin's going to come out and do all of the things he does to you until he does it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, in the words of the poet Franklin Klein, you know, sometimes you want to be Stone Cold and sometimes you want to be the boss. You know? And, you know, lying supine on the ground, having beer poured all over you. Mm-hmm. You know, a poem we all know.
Yes, exactly.
And so, I kind of get it that you don't know much about him. It makes sense that he's in the game because Caesar can't be there.
Mm-hmm.
Because of like the way all of this works, right? Because if Caesar is the final boss attacking the Legion, then what happens if you've already killed Caesar?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing, right? And so you got to create this kind of like proxy character that the end of the game can sit on so it doesn't mess with the rest of your kind of design. So I totally get it. I think part of the problem with him is he looks like a big cartoon character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
think that yeah,
they even like took the default character model and they have like scaled him up so that he is larger than any other NPC in the game, aside from like a super mutant.
Yeah, he's wearing this like what do you call it? Like mask,
Mm-hmm.
that's really kind of indicative of something above and beyond. So he just kind of he doesn't fit in the world. And I think that there are a lot of ways, and obviously look, they made this game very quickly, and it's very impressive, I think, for how quickly they made this game, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that, we can just imagine, I can imagine with the benefit of a decade of hindsight, a lot of ways that you could have done a character like this that would have been tied into the lore, that would have been maybe a little bit more compelling if you want this big cartoonish kind of like big bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you could say they found a stockpile of FEV, or they found a container of FEV from somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and that was being transported, and they made one super mutant, and so the Legion has a commander general who's a super mutant, and that would be cool.
Well,
and that could make him big and comical or whatever.
This
right?
is the thing, Cameron, right? He's Frank Horrigan. We've already seen
He is Frank Horrigan. He is Frank. Shit.
Like
He's
that.
Frank.
That's why it's so confusing that he kind of comes in so awkwardly here, because we've seen, parts of this team basically pull this move before, where you establish him in an early scene where you get to see him being a badass. And I don't mean like badass in necessarily a good way. I mean like being a bad dude. And then you just let that sort of linger over the rest of the playthrough until you meet him again.
Yep.
But as you say, it was done quickly, and I imagine there was a lot of shuffling around. I think I don't dislike this character in any way. I just feel like he could have had that Frank Horrigan moment at the beginning that at least set him up as something to watch out for, because as it is a real it feels like a big tonal shift when you suddenly walk in and there's this giant NPC that you either have to fight or like debate about like land holdings with.
Yeah, there's also this kind of thing too, because I was immediately thinking one way of doing that would be what's the city we went to where everyone was murdered by the Legion? Nipton. One way of doing that would be like, we're here on the orders of Kaisar and our field commander, this guy, right? There's ways to integrate into already existing things, but I think part of the trouble there is that, and I might be wrong on this, but I'm putting all of this together. And I bet that he is part of the reinforcements that are coming from the east. Because they say that repeatedly. The Legion is waiting for the veterans to come, in the same way that they're talking about the veterans coming from Southern California for the NCR.
Mm-hmm.
They're part of the rationale for the deadlock that they're in, as far as what's going on with the Hoover Dam, is that they are waiting for major and serious reinforcements. And I wonder if that's kind of the logic here, is that he's not pre-signaled and he's not around like Frank Horrigan would be, because we're waiting on him, and when he got here is when all this stuff happened. Because that does show up a little bit. The idea that everyone knows that both sides are waiting for these additional people, and so that's one way of seeing it. They're just not directly connected. You have to kind of put that together in your head. Mm-hmm. But no, I think you're exactly right. Give us a note somewhere. Give us a little log that tells us about this. Easy.
Mm-hmm.
But oh well, like it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Just comes out of nowhere. Okay, well I think that's this episode. What is the first DLC that we're going to be doing?
The first DLC that we will be doing is the first DLC that was released. It is called Dead Money, and it is about us investigating a casino.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I should say this here. I've never played any of these DLC.
Neither have I. This is
not even one. So it's going to be a real interesting little journey for us, I think.
Mm-hmm. It'll also be interesting to think about because I think all of the DLC is supposed to take place before the end of the main quest. So I think it'll be interesting to rethink what this story is and what it feels like now versus what it might be or what it might feel like if you do all of this DLC stuff in between, like, I don't know, some point in the middle of the game and all of the stuff we just talked about.
Yeah, because you're supposed, there's no continue on after the credits roll in this. And much like Fallout 3, you have to reload a save from right before it. So, kind of canonically, the DLC has to take place in that, and, in that time period. But so cool. We're going to be doing Dead Money next. That'll be here in 2 weeks. You can go to twitter.com/rangetouch to see everything that we're up to. And you can go to patreon.com/rangetouch in order to support what we do on this show. If you watch the show on YouTube and you want to listen to it as a podcast instead, we keep that behind the paywall a little bit. So you can go to patreon.com/rangetouch. Like I said, the description is down the link is down in the description below. And if you support us for $3 a month over there, you can do that. Very nominal fee to pay for it. I think it's very reasonable. But if you support us for $5 a month, you get all kinds of cool stuff. You get the Range Touch monthly podcast. You get a little newsletter that we put out. You get access to our other show, Just King Things' is Bonus-odes, where we talk about the movies of Stephen King. And we do a bunch of other podcasts as well, like Just King Things, where we're reading through all the published works of Stephen King in order. Homestuck Made This World, where we are analyzing and talking about Homestuck a little bit at a time. And Game Study Buddies, where we talk about works of game studies, look at academic books and talk about them and make them hopefully usable and interesting for people who don't have a lot of academic training. So if you're a game designer, developer, just someone who's interested in games, that's probably a really cool show for you. I promise you that if you enjoy this show, you will enjoy those other shows. As well as Mages and Murder Dads, which if you are a YouTube subscriber, you see us post about regularly. Our season on Icewind Dale will be starting sometime soon, or it might have already started by the time you're hearing this. I don't quite know. But we got all kinds of cool stuff at Range Touch. You can learn all about it at rangetouch.com. So just go to rangetouch.com to see what's going on with that. I promise you that, like I said, if you listen to this show and you like it, and you say, hey, I want to hear more of those people talking, we have all kinds of other things that are just as interesting as this show and just as lovable. You can love them. And you can support us on Patreon to close the loop there. But I don't know, Michael, is there anything else we got going on, or is it time for the catchphrase?
I would actually say it's time for Michael's big question.
Oh my God, Michael's big question.
Mm-hmm. So you can let us know your answer, dear listener, to Michael's big question in the comments below. Give us a little boost. It helps the algorithm. Give us a little thumbs up or whatever it is that YouTube lets you do now. But also answer this question, something to think about. If you were to be introduced in a video game as a big out of nowhere at the end combat boss, what is the scene that you want at the beginning that establishes that you are a force to be reckoned with? Let us know. And until next time, remember that war never changes, but Fallout sure does.
Everything